Welcome back to the channel, everyone. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Darkhourpc. Since the release of Salvage in the verse, we have already seen a transition from a simple and easy activity into a more complex industrial activity. While not yet at the level of the intricacies that mining has with the multiple laser heads in different sizes as well as gadgets and modules, we do see the beginning of it going down the same path as mining. And while mining at first glance can be very intimidating with all the options and nuances, it is truly the most well-defined and developed occupation in the Star Citizen universe. Join me as we take a look at Salvage in its current state in patch 3.22, as well as a brief look at the two ships, some of the equipment features, and how you can actually make as much as 8 million AUEC in a matter of 4 to 5 hours. Before we get into all the details though, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you enjoy this type of information, as it is really appreciated and really helps to get the information out to more people. Also make sure to stick around till the end to see how you can win an Origin X1 hoverbike, and don't forget to visit our sponsor. And I guess if I'm my own sponsor, I really don't have to pay myself. But the sponsor really is more Darkhourpc.com. It's up and running, and if you're looking for a PC to replace a broken or aged one and are either on a budget or don't want to way overspend or even build one yourself, or you may even want just a custom build, check out Darkhourpc.com. We offer custom build consultations and build services, as well as pre-designed models that can be built for you, all starting at $549 US. Also offered are repair services for the greater Indianapolis area, and Darkhourpc really strives to provide for a fun gamer experience, whether you're a fan of Intel or AMD, with many choices in multiple different price ranges. We can even get you set up if you want your build to be shown on a YouTube video or even a live stream, and that way you can watch your PC being built. We take great pride in being able to offer great systems for those that may not want to build it themselves. We even offer ability to add items for great customizations like RGB strips or even sleeved extension cables. It really does give it that finished complete look. But check out Darkhourpc.com today for what could be your next system. Now that we've got the sponsor out of the way, Salvage was originally introduced in patch 3.18, though having been on and off the roadmap several times prior to that, it was a relief to finally see it hit the verse. You can check out our original Salvage video here at the link in the corner above. In its first iteration, Salvage was strictly just hull scraping and consisted of just 2 salvage beam types per ship, the trawler and the abrade on the reclaimer, and the abrade and cinch on the vulture. The key factor, it seemed, was that the abrade was going to be the better of the two options on either ship, and this does really remain true today. Salvage has also introduced the ability to hand salvage and use the multi-tool to strip smaller amounts and also reapply those amounts of salvage materials to patch a hole on your own vehicle. This actually worked extremely well, and many people gave it a shot and tried it and greatly enjoyed it. As the patches progressed, we did eventually see some refinements made with the addition of salvage missions, and this progressed further into legal and illegal mission selection options. These would present the citizens of Stanton with the risk-reward option that they longed for, and the higher AUEC that could be made by working in higher threat environments. After this, we found that money you could make by also scanning and searching the ships for sellable cargo in some cases exceeded what you could actually make by salvaging the ships. And we have gasping weevil eggs to thank for that. And though some things have been adjusted due to imbalance, such as the endless AUEC that could be made just by taking cargo off C2s, the salvage system has operated and advanced extremely well. With patch 3.22 though, we do see further advancement that is going to take salvage even further in its development. With 3.22, we still have only the reclaimer and the vulture to large-scale salvage with, though there has been changes since its creation to the equipment that can be used for salvaging. We now have shipboard tractor beams, which is a huge advancement. This actually came in with patch 3.21, but this now allows the vulture and reclaimer to use a tractor beam in place of one of its salvage heads to assist with the ship that's being salvaged as needed. Though personally I don't use this myself or practice it, as I don't find it very beneficial, and I can maneuver the ship around to be able to scrape the hull wherever I need to. Along with this though, we see in 3.22 that the same way a tractor beam rifle was created, so was a salvage rifle. And this is the Cambio SRT. It's now a larger gun that handles more than what the Pyro multi-tool does and allows for the same functionality for hand salvaging and repair. Though repair is still currently cosmetic, there is future plans to allow it to actually repair some functionality to whatever it's being applied to. The equipment as far as what is on board ships has now changed drastically as well with 322. Previously, we were limited to one SCU containers on both the Vulture as well as the Reclaimer, and though this was not too difficult to work, especially on the Vulture, it was a bit more of a hassle on the Reclaimer unless you had additional personnel to help move the crates around. And though the Vulture is made for solo operation, the Reclaimer really is not. Many do enjoy and profit heavily though from doing so. The ejection ports now on the Reclaimer actually have the capability to create larger containers outside of the 1 SCU. 1 SCU is still available, but now sizes of 2, 8, and 16 SCU are available when interacting with the panel on the side of the ejection port of the Reclaimer. Along with this change, the panels can still craft a number of items such as multi-tools, SRT canisters, and more. This adds to the overall functionality and self-sustainability of the Reclaimer as well as the Vulture. Now, hull scraping is still the basic function of the Vulture and the Reclaimer, and this portion has not really changed at all with 322 aside from the shipboard tractor beams. Though in the latest patch, this is now optional. Now you can actually profit without doing this, though if possible and you have the time, you can actually maximize profits by doing so, and it is much easier on the Vulture than it is the Reclaimer. This is going to be done by approaching the ship and positioning the salvage beams in an ideal distance from the hull. It is recommended to use the abrade salvage beam as it is really the most efficient and works the best. You're going to activate the salvage mode by pressing M or whatever key that you have mapped out for activating mining mode. Then you're going to go ahead and pull the trigger to fire the beam and work the laser side to side as you go across the ship's exterior, stripping it of all of its skin. Now with the Vulture, you do have gimbal mode that you can enter to enable you to move the salvage beams without moving your ship, and this is done by hitting G on the keyboard. You can also remap it to any key, button, or switch that you like in the options menu. As you do scrape the hull, you want to pay attention to the area that shows the concentration of scrapable material, as this will indicate the amount that is still left in that area. Now, unlike before, you do have the ability to continue scraping as it stores it in the buffer and do not have to constantly run down to empty the ejection port. And we're going to discuss the buffer in just a moment, because this is actually going to bring us to munching. Now with patch 322, Salvage has introduced munching, or what's better described as disintegration. This is actually going to be the act where you take what's left after the hull has or has not been stripped and you process it for the construction materials. Basically, disintegrating the ship down for all of its resellable material. This is done by approaching the ship and activating this mode of salvage. On the Vulture and Reclaimer, you'll need to bind the fracture and disintegrate keys in the salvage options of your keybinds. On the Reclaimer, the co-pilot seat is used for this function and is again activated using the M key or whichever keybind you have for activating mining mode. Once activated either on the Vulture or through the extending of the claw on the Reclaimer, you can activate the breakdown field or the fracture field as it's known. This will create a blurred area on the screen in third person around the item that you're actually breaking down. You will know when you are close enough and the area of effect is close enough to the ship as the dial that appears on the screen to indicate progress as you are fracturing the ship. You will want to pay close attention as you approach the salvageable ship, as when the circle does appear, it can also provide you with the anticipated SCU amount of materials when broken down. As the fracture field does what it's supposed to do, you will see this gauge fill up, and when it reaches all the way around 360 degrees, the ship will fracture. Now, it is possible to attempt to break things down that are too big for you, and this is mostly in regard to the Vulture, which your only option at that point is that you take what you can get as far as RMC and hull scraping, but the Reclaimer, I have found nothing yet that can actually withstand its munching abilities. Once the field is running and the gauge fills up, you will see the ship you're salvaging break apart, as I mentioned, into many pieces. This is when you'll want to actually activate the disintegration field, or pretty much what equates to the equivalent of an extractor in mining. As you go around and collect the pieces, you'll notice that the same white circle appears on the broken pieces to indicate when you're going to be complete and it's all going to be extracted and put into the buffer. Now, as you go around and collect pieces, you will notice that the ejectors are not necessarily ejecting crates right away, and this is due to the amazing new feature that only improves the solo salvage aspect of this gameplay loop, but it also nearly doubles the earning capacity of a salvage ship, and that's the buffer. The buffer is now a feature of the ships that stores material until you create the crates from the ejection ports on board both the Vulture and the Reclaimer. The Vulture itself actually has a 13 SCU buffer, and the Reclaimer has a 240 SCU buffer. Once this buffer is actually full, you do need to go and create and store crates on the cargo grid of the ship, and this has been introduced with the munching feature. It also provides a couple of other benefits that enable additional AUEC earning when salvaging, especially when you're a solo reclaimer pilot. It means that as a solo player, you can scrape and fracture ships until the buffer is full and then proceed to crate it up after the fact and place it on the cargo grid. It acts as kind of a magic pocket of holding. Instead of actually constantly needing to run back and forth every other crate to clear the ejection area. There's actually a couple of benefits to this, as I said, and one is that if you are working solo on the Reclaimer, it gives you the time. Once it is in the buffer, you do not lose it unless the ship is destroyed. It adds to the profitability in the fact that you can travel with the buffer full as well, meaning you can go, land, and sell everything on your cargo grid, go back to the hangar and eject what is in the buffer, place it on the cargo grid, and sell again. This actually doubles the holding capacity of the Vulture and adds more than 50% on the Reclaimer. Now, keep in mind you cannot sell from the buffer, and all sellable materials need to be on the cargo grid. This is actually very important, as in our experience, it seems that at times the places that you sell this material, such as a salvage yard or an admin center, cannot consistently recognize the size of the crates off the cargo grid. We have seen 8 and 16 SCU crates only actually register as 1 SCU, and this really makes it so you have to be careful where you place things that are larger size, and if you're going to overfill, do so with 1 SCU size crates. But also be aware that this is a higher risk due to crates not locked into the cargo grid can also at times destroy a ship due to repetitive collision damage. Especially with the Reclaimer, the buffer works great in high threat areas. As you may not have the time to solo the Reclaimer and scrape the entire hull before munching, this allows you to go straight to the munching and not do the hull scraping, and immediately empty the buffer and extract more construction materials fairly quickly. Also, with missions like Wake of Disaster, where there is a more hostile environment or possibility of interlopers, you can munch, fill the buffer, depart the area for deep space, stop out in the middle of nowhere, take the time you need to empty the buffer onto the cargo grid, and then return and fill the buffer again and repeat this process while filling up your ship. It really will allow limiting the threat while emptying the buffer onto the cargo grid. Keep in mind, though, that whatever the buffer cannot hold is lost. The addition of the buffer has really simplified solo reclaimer use and has also increased the profitability of the salvage gameplay. It does also add to the fact that as for the reclaimer and flying solo, you're best to focus on munching and not bother with the scraping in order to maximize the AUEC per hour. In my travels, it was easy to make over 4 million AUEC in the matter of a few hours by myself, and doing just munching solo, or as a team, we were able to make over 8 million AUEC in about 4.5 hours with just myself and 2 other occupants. Salvage, in the short time it has been in the verse, has grown a great deal and all in good ways. As I'm sure we will see future additions and adjustments, I think overall the future is very bright for salvaging. I look forward to any new introductions that come for this activity, but there are a couple of things that could use some work still the same. And these are basically my opinions and no promises of any of this being looked at by CIG. And some of that would be the loss of all the material that the buffer can't hold. In the future, it'd be nice to see it be able to be picked up by an accompanying ship, or to be able to return and have it just be broken off into smaller chunks in order to not overfill your buffer. This is actually most prevalent when you are working with something like a broken down Idris, and will be a bigger concern as we see larger ships make it into the verse, though really this is currently a minor issue. Another concern would be the doorway size into the elevator going down to the cargo hold. Now currently, and I can understand why, 8 SCU is the largest item that you can actually get down into the cargo hold. You cannot fit a 16 SCU container down there, but the loading of an 8 SCU container onto the elevator can be tricky. Seeing these elevator doorways just be a little bit taller would be a huge benefit to be able to move these boxes down to the cargo hold. It would also probably make it a little less deadly on the elevator as you're riding down with them. But these are improvements I hope that maybe one day they'll consider and maybe even move into the verse. And that really is about it right now for the update on Salvage. The system is working extremely well and currently really the fastest way to make some big AUEC for sure. We're definitely going to be doing more here on stream in the future, and always feel free to join us for any of those expeditions. We stream every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and don't forget you can always get your entry in to win a free Origin X1 just by subscribing here and leaving a comment on any video, or follow on any of the streaming channels including here on YouTube, Twitch, Kick, or Trovo. And we'll be pulling that winner for the X1 on March 1st, so keep an eye on your notifications. And if you want to help support the channel, check out the merch store where we have all kinds of gear available for the org as well as the channel. And all of that really does go back into the monthly giveaways back to the community. I want to say thank you again for being here. Please be safe out there, and hopefully we will see you in the verse.